Welcome back to the Win by 2 podcast powered by DIMER 2K. I'm really excited to welcome our first ever player guest on the show, Zay of Hornets Venom GT. Man, I appreciate you taking the time out of your really busy day to join us.
Hey man, I appreciate you guys having me for the inaugural episode, man. It really means a lot.
Now, the moment I knew, Zay, that we had to have you on the show for the first episode is when I was just scrolling through my Twitter feed and I stumbled onto Mama's Freak Show for the first time. And you were one of the guests that were brought on. And you know he likes to bait people on the show, but you handled yourself really well. And when you had gotten off, I remember specifically Mama saying it looks like Zay's been PR trained and he's been trained well.
Yeah, man. I mean, look, like I said, the Hornets organization, they've done a great job with the PR, right? I took in a lot of info that they can give me, and just having fun with it at the end of the day, right? It's all about content, and so just trying to show off that hey, you can do a little bit of both. You can have the content and also show like yeah, I can, I know the limits, right? You can know the limits of every situation.
Exactly. Now, getting into it, I know, like by now, your fans know your story. Taken in the first round of this year's draft, 19th overall, but let's bring it back a little bit, before it, just to kind of provide some context on your journey. For those that don't know, this wasn't your first attempt to get into the league. You actually tried before. So I think like in 2018, talk about that feeling of not getting past the first stage, I think.
Right, yeah. So season two, season one, I didn't even try it at all, right? It was weird. I was going through some things, but I actually was really interested in doing it, but it just circumstances in my life just didn't allow me to even, do the qualifications at hand. But in season two, I made it through the qualifications to go to the combine, and I didn't even make it out the combine. I didn't even make it out the first step, the first cutout basically.
How tough was that for you, especially knowing that even at that time, like you had all the talent in the world?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it was devastating. I mean, but also it kind of like it was kind of representation of your time is gonna come, and it's like kind of like I I had the skill set, right? I did everything I could possible, right? At the end of the day, it was winning games was the biggest issue for me. Everything else that came with it, I was excelling in, within the stats, within managing some games. But at the end of the day, it's focused on, so again, it's all about winning. It's all about making that win percentage get high. And at the end of the day, I didn't get that complete, so I didn't make out the first cutoff. And like I said, it was devastating, and it fueled a lot in me for like the coming times, and for what happens now.
Now, headed into this year's pre-draft process, you before the combine, you actually competed in the Mavs tournament. And you ended up winning that tournament and you earned the reward, which was a spot in the draft pool. How much of a relief was that for you?
And let me tell you something. So I was in school at the time, right? And this was this was kind of like it kind of like how the MJ The Last Dance. This was kind of like my last time. Like, could be really with you because this was my last attempt. I was for like just fully focused on 2K, and I told my mother, I told a lot of my family, like, look, I'm gonna take one more year off of school just to commit to all this. And if it doesn't work out, right? If it doesn't work out, then you know what? Maybe it was not meant for me. So, and it's funny because how life is just crazy. How I was solely focused on the combine, right? I was solely focused on the combine, just preparing it. And then one day I get hit up like, yo, let's play in this mass tournament. I'm like, okay, we can do that. So knowing me, I never been out to. I'm from Chicago, Illinois. I never been out of Chicago before in my life. You know, and the first time I ever leave, I go to Dallas, Texas. By myself, and the amount of crazy, airport stories I could tell you of me not knowing where my luggage is. Like I was just lost. I didn't know what I was doing. I was like, well, okay, well, I made it to Dallas. So when I made it to Dallas, and my job, obviously was to compete and win, right, to get a spot in the pool. I did that, and looking back at it, to prepare for the combine and then just saying, well, hold on, you already got a spot, my guy. Like you play great in the tournament, and you play good enough, obviously, to get a spot. And so that kind of changed everything for me at that point. It kind of changed my mindset. It changed everything that, you know, you're good now. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to worry. You're good now. You can take care of what you can take care of for the time being, right? Still, I play pro am, here and there, right? I still
Mm-hmm.
had a name. I still had a name to bring out, and this tournament obviously helped that a lot,
Yeah.
with the my reputation and I guess my stock, in the coming draft.
Exactly. And you talked about preparing for the combine and then out of nowhere, surprisingly winning the Mavs tournament, getting your spot, and you still ended up playing in the combine. Was it because you had put so much work into it or you just kind of wanted to again keep your stock up?
So you have to still at the end of the day. It's still it's still something that everybody who won the pool spot, league tournaments, they all have to play in the combine, including even players like myself. So, but it's funny though because it's like when I was playing in the combine, I was still kind of getting at it, like I was still a little still I was still playing just like as if it was just like I still didn't have a spot in the pool, just because it's like I prepared so much for it because it's like I'm not letting this combine beat me again. Like I'm not letting it cannot happen, you
Right.
know. And so obviously at the end of the day obviously it's in the back of your head like yeah you got the pool spot so you're chilling, but my competitive nature is always like you still got to perform, you still got to play out no matter what.
Of course. Now, past the combine, you get into the interview stages for the first time. Did you end up interviewing with several different teams? And if so, obviously, you got chosen by the Hornets ultimately. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, and so I have no issue saying, I got interviewed by, I'm pretty sure it was over 12 teams. It was a decent amount of teams that kind of knew, who I was and, what I could bring to the table. So it was a blessing, right? It was obviously, it was real nice to see a lot of teams interested, and, it was just going through the process was just, it was awesome too, exactly for someone who didn't make it, and someone who, and I can speak for other people too, right? That just who were new to this, the whole interview, setting up times, talking with people, just getting to know them. At the end of the day, you're getting to know the 2K League family and the personalities that come with it. And so, for me doing that, I got more pleasure in getting to know the guys, over just potentially being part of the team, right? Because it's like not you only can get drafted to one team, right? So it's like for the most part, you're really just getting to know these guys, and it's been awesome, meeting all the guys at that time for the first time.
Right. Now, can you tell us, did you walk away from like any interviews feeling like, oh man, like, this might be the team. I might get picked up by this
Yeah, I
franchise
mean,
franchise.
I got no issue. So Hornets obviously were one of them, right? Hornets were a team that, you know, obviously knew my talents, because it's like me being a power forward, it's very it's a little iffy, because if you're a point guard, they're all in, so it's clear on what they need, right? But a power forward like myself, I kind of brought in this new face of you can be aggressive, you can be a very instrumental part of an offense as of being a power forward, as if I played on a finisher slasher build all pre-draft while everybody was using the rebounding wings and the glass cleaners that could shoot. And a lot of teams were kind of speaking on that, like, yo, what's it like, can you be a part of the offense? What is your focus on defense? And at the end of the day, the defense was my only focus. That's how I was known. Offense was just something I always worked on. This was something I always worked on continuously. And so a lot of teams kind of question that. They're like, oh, how would you feel if maybe you weren't getting the ball that much, or how would you feel if you were one of the main players or you got the most shot attempts? They kind of threw a lot of things at me. And I'll just name a couple of teams that just kind of knew me the best. It was the Warriors, Hornets, Genji, and 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 that's about it. That's I think those are the fair groups of teams I'd say knew me the best.
Right,
And it
right.
could be because of players that they played on, players on that team. It could be obviously the management itself, the GMs, coach that obviously tuned in a lot and knew who I was coming into this. I really wanted to know who I am and what I could bring to the table.
Now, I'm glad you brought up your playing style, trying to show everyone that you can do more at that four spot. I'm hoping I can bring up this graphic on the screen, but in response to another Twitter user, you actually tweeted, average power forwards are 3 and D, but these power forwards can do more than that. And so now you
Wow.
now you fast forward to today, and you're trying to lead the change in like just revamping the meta in the league. Like how important was it for you to make it known that no, a power forward can be a big part of this offense? Because clearly, I mean, you knew the vibes even from way back when.
Man, I don't know how you found that, man. It's like I thought, like once you went through half the sentence, like, oh my God, I did say that before. I was probably over. That was over a year ago, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, look. I mean, it's no secret. Who you are. Like the way I play the power forward is just kind of who I am as a person. You're unique, creative, innovative. Just different. I'm more. I come. Obviously, I learned a lot from like the day fries. The shots, breadwinners, feast. I mean, I can go on and on, right? Like all these power forwards that came through, and set the kind of tone from season two at least. With the pure post scorers, the rim sharps, obviously were as good as you can get, and then the stretch athletics. And from season one, you had the shot slashers that kind of resemble the power forward, if you want to say it. And so that was kind of my motivation, right? Seeing all those guys perform, incredibly. And I was like, man, I can do this too. I was like, there's no different for me. I can do the same thing too. All I need is a chance. And so doing that kind of inspired me to work on my craft more and more. And I was always a great defender. Defense was always my main thing. But offense, I remember Dave Fry too was always telling me, back in the day, he's like, yo, you got to work on your offense. Being a better offensive player will get you to the top tier. And so that's why I worked at continuously, finding angles, learning how to use the post a lot. And you can see obviously with this year, it pays off, right? And just finding, like I said, finding the angles, knowing when to use a specific move, when to hop step, when to reverse layup, when to do a post up versus post fade, shimmy fade, my move.
Yeah, yeah.
And just like all those things, those it's I said, and I said this before, when you work hard, and you don't just wake up doing this. I continuously work every single day in scrims, practices, and just test things out. And I want to shout out my team too, because my team, at the end of the day, Dave are the ones that gave me this platform, right? If it wasn't for them, if they weren't so accepting and so understanding that, hey, I have these skill sets, and we need to take advantage of Zay's ability to score and create for himself, then who knows what kind of player I would be. But there's no other team I would want to be with, because this team easily took advantage of me the most, and allowing me to be myself at the end of the day.
Now I want to touch in on that. Like, how does something like that come up? Because I know in your first game against the Cavs, you were already, you looked comfortable putting up double digit shot attempts. And so was this something you brought up to Coach Wes and Nacho, or did they bring it up to you? Like, how did that all come up as you guys are trying to put together your game plan headed into the season?
Yeah, so West and Notch, I mean, they're phenomenal. I mean, they scout really well, and so even for the fact that, hey, I'm playing on a glass cleaner, they knew, like, well, let's see what he looks like trying to score, right? Let's see what it looks like, because we have four rookies on the team,
Mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, you can be exceptional as you could be as good as you could be, but then you're still rook. So this, when times comes and it's situations where you play against veteran players who know how the ropes go with like pressuring and really tuning into the game, and you need to rely on a teammate like, yo, I need help. That's where it comes through. And so they were like, okay, well, in cases where the game's looking like, okay, well, the backcourt is kind of looking a little iffy, we can throw it out to the corner and you can work for us for a little bit. And this obviously happened during scrims, right? So it was signs of scrims, right? I go to the game and I get the ball and I just work out a little bit, and it worked out. So Wes was like, okay, well, that worked out. Let's just see a little bit more of it. Let's see how it looks if we continue to do it. And then from continuing to do it, turned into, okay, well, let's run some sets through him. From sets, it turns out to be actual plays for me, right? And so, it started off with just me just posting up, and then, Ty brought in the great idea where, hey, free boards is actually a pretty useful thing in this game, right? It's resemblance of season one. And, you know, it helps us a lot, because being a rookie team, us conserving the clock and juicing the clock as much as we can, especially when we have a lead, works out for our favor a lot.
Right,
And
right.
it saved us a lot of games playing that way. It's a real. I'll be honest with you, it's not the most fun to watch at the end of the day. Just shooting up frees and wasting clock. But we want to do whatever we can to win the game, right? And if my jersey is called to say, hey, we need you to do this, that, and third, and I'm all for it. Because at the end of the day, all I care about is winning and just succeeding as overall as a team.
Right. Now, switching gears a little bit before we wrap up, I know you're a big Jay Z fan. You're a big Nas fan. You like Kendrick Lamar. Like, what influence did these guys have on you growing up? And you know, what songs are you listening to pregame? Like, what's on your playlist?
So growing up, I kind of grew up a little. I grew up a little bit fast. I kind of had to, be the man, not so and so at the house. I kind of had to do a lot of things early when I was like 14, 15, 16. And I don't know, like it just that my mature nature of like just who I was. When I first listened to Jay Z, it's probably like on some random stuff, and I'm like, oh, this guy, kind of hit. I like this. I can mess with this. And so, overall, I always listen to it. So Nas, he's talking about, you know, like all the great songs and inspirations that he says from his own like coming up, right? Obviously influenced me a lot. Just like that being the lyricist, and someone who's very passionate about, himself, the world and everything around it. And same with Hove, he's someone that, kind of started up the generation that came through for these new artists, these new coming artists like J. Cole's, Lamar's, and such like that. And so, Blueprint. I mean, if you come to my house one day, I'm telling you, I have at least 5 different vinyls of, some of my favorite albums, like of Nas's Nasir is one of the more recent albums, and then the Lost Tapes. Then you have Jay-Z's, In My Lifetime, and then you have the Blueprint, my overall favorite album of all time, the OG Blueprint. I'm telling you right now, there's no other album that has a hit for every song. There's no songs you're like, hey, I might want to skip. Every single one of them you're listening to throughout the whole time. And then my pregame, honestly, my pregame, Lil Wayne's kind of my guy.
Okay.
I'm more of a Lil Wayne kind of. I mean, I'm talking about his mixtapes, like the breakup with No Ceilings. Like that's that stuff that I listen to every day and just get pumped up to. And I won't lie, I listen to a little R&B. I'm not gonna lie. A little R&B doesn't kill nobody.
You gotta slow it down a little bit.
I gotta, you got a little, like get a little different mood going to it, So a little R&B, it always, a little Usher never hurts nobody,
No, not at all.
Yeah, so that's the kind of stuff I like to listen to, and as to why I listen to those guys. I'm from Chicago. I don't, you're supposed to, where you're from is kind of where you're supposed to listen to, but in my heart, music wise, New York is like, that's all I listen to at the end of the day.
Right. Now, before we let you go, Zay, let's talk a little bit about your team, the Hornets Venom. You guys are sitting at 5-2, with your only losses coming to the Raptors and the Wizards. What's the mindset of your team headed into Week 7 as we get past the tip-off tournament?
Yeah, so first, pretty much first half of the season, it went pretty well. I mean, I won't be too hard on myself. And, we lost to the two, arguably top 3 teams in the league, and so it hurts because one of them was a game 3 against the Raptors that we could have adjusted very well, and then kind of came out with a little more better game plan. And then the Wizards, I mean, both. I mean, I'm talking about. I mean, you've seen with the tip off. I mean, those are gritty guys. All those Wizards players are gritty, and it got dirty. Those games, and I love it and I hate it at the same time. And so, I don't hang my head too low on those losses, but I'm overall we've had a pretty great season so far. A lot of we've shocked a lot of people at the end of the day. A lot of people didn't really people expected us to be pretty good, but not like this though. And second half of the season, we're looking just to keep pushing that momentum. We have a tough matchup coming up. Really, I'm pretty sure it's on Tuesday. We have the Jazz. We're looking really good right now, and so once we get through these couple tough teams, we just find our groove. Finding we kind of have our identity at this point, but we just want to implement more, and then kind of conserve a playoff spot because we've always believed we're a team that's gonna make playoffs and make a lot of noise, and so we're doing a little bit of that, but we still got a lot of work on, and we still have a lot to prove at the end of the day.
Right. Well, regardless, you guys deserve all the success you guys have coming to you. Zay, where can our listeners find you on social media?
Okay, so on Twitter, I'm at Zaybucks, just ZAEBUCKS, and same thing on Instagram. Follow me both on there.
Perfect. Again, Zay, thank you for coming onto the show, and congratulations, man, on getting drafted and getting an opportunity to live out your dream.
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm never gonna take advantage of it. Take this for granted. This is I hope anybody who's willing to succeed in becoming this gets to this, because this is once in a lifetime.
Exactly, yeah. So right after this quick break, we'll wrap everything up on the very first episode of the Win by 2 podcast, powered by DIMER 2K.